Hi everyone, I am Vismaya Rubin, founder of Living in Gratitude Today, teacher, speaker, best-selling author, but my favorite role is that of a gratitude gangster. What? So, we have all been affected one way or another by COVID and or by the death of George Floyd. I believe the only way you haven't been affected is if you live in a box and haven't turned on the TV or social media in the past few weeks. And we're feeling the pandemic and we're feeling the death of George Floyd in our communities. We're feeling it on social media. We're feeling it when we turn on the news. We're feeling it everywhere we turn our heads. And it's causing a lot of serious stress in our bodies. And the other day, my roommate said to me, he's like, you know that show you like? And I said, which one? He says, The Baker and the Beauty, or The Beauty and the Baker. I said, yeah. He goes, it's on for 2 hours tonight. He's like, why don't you turn that on instead of watching the news? And I'm not a TV watcher, and I had stopped watching the news for a while, but I have been like this to the TV, glued. And I feel it in my body. I feel it everywhere. So I said, okay. I heard him, I listened, and I turned it off and I watched this show that was super silly, but I could feel everything in my body go from like this, and it was a great reminder. I felt my body release, like completely shift. So a recent study showed, and there's been many studies that show this, that social media networking sites are absolutely known to cause stress. And what happens is that instead of shutting them off and walking away, what we do is we change platforms. So we go from one platform to the other, and then when that starts to stress us out, we either go back to the first platform or we find things to do on the second platform to kind of pretend that it's not happening and pretend we're not getting stressed out. So we'll play games, or we'll take these quizzes, or we'll scroll through somebody's feed that we like. But in the end, instead of walking away from the thing that's causing us all this angst and stress, it's pulling us in. We're becoming addicted to it. It's drawing us in. It's sucking us in. And I know some of you that are listening don't have social media, but others are understanding absolutely what I'm talking about. So, what the author says is step away. Walk away from the social media. Call a friend. Play, instead of a game online, play a game with a board game, or get out of the social media maybe and play a game on your phone if you need to. There are puzzles you can do, Sudoku, whatever it is, but get off the social media because you're being bombarded constantly with all of that input. And some of them are things you agree with, and then some of them are you don't agree with, and and it's a non-stop, and your body starts to go like this again. So the other thing I want you to know is that there are aspects of stress that are very helpful, but it's how we deal with that stress. So stress can be healthy because low and moderate stress kicks our immune system into full gear. Chronic stress doesn't. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Number 2, low and moderate stress push us into action and increase cognitive function. Low-level stressors stimulate the production of brain chemicals called neurotrophins, and they strengthen the connections between the neurons in the brain. So look at your own performance. If a client calls you up and says, listen, I need you to get this done by tomorrow, that's a stressful situation. But you somehow find a way to laser in, focus in, your cognitive function improves, and you get that done. We're not talking about chronic stress. We're talking about stressful situations, right? So as you're looking and analyzing your own life, you can say, well, is that true for you or not? So pay attention over the next few days and ask yourself, when I'm in these stressful situations, how do I perform? I know for me, when I have a deadline or when I got a list of things to do, I am laser focused. When I don't have anything scheduled, I'm like a butterfly. So, and the other thing is that stress makes you tough. People who are resilient learn how to deal with stress, and when they're placed in a similar situation, that stress becomes their friend versus their foe. It may not feel like that right now, but this next time you're in that situation, you'll start to notice that you're handling stress a different way. So there was another study that I was reading about by Carrie Leibowitz and Aaliyah Crum, and they talked about how there's a difference between feeling stressed and then worrying about feeling stressed. So the feeling stressed is okay. It's the worrying about feeling stressed that is not okay. And that's what gets us into trouble. And they said that, they tested this out with Navy SEALs, regular people, entrepreneurs. And there were a couple of steps that they said that most people, if they followed these steps, were able to have stress be their friend versus their foe. And the first one is acknowledge your stress. So I realize I'm stressed. Labeling your stress consciously and deliberately moves the neural activity from the amygdala, which is the center of your kind of flight or fight, the emotions and the fear, to the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive control and planning. So in essence, it moves you from being reactive to being proactive. So as you're looking at this stress, acknowledge it. Pay attention to it. Because again, it goes to the idea of what you resist persists. So if we pretend it's not there, it doesn't mean it's not there. It means that we're kind of hiding it, ignoring it, walking away from it. But if you say, okay, this is what's going on, you have the opportunity to grow from that, to build from that, and to create something different. The second thing they say to do is own your stress. So they said that we only stress about things that are important to us. And they suggest that you use this sentence, and I'll put it in the email. So I'm stressed about X because I care deeply about Y. So it could be for you if you're dealing with COVID and you are trying to get unemployment and haven't, or your sales haven't been as great as, I'm really stressed out about the lack of money coming in. And that's because I deeply care about my family, and I want to be able to provide a home for them, shelter, and I want to be able to have food on the table, and I want to be able to have car insurance so that when my kids get in the car, they're safe, or at least I know they're protected a little bit. So there's a very big difference between thinking that stress is here to get me versus, hey, you know what? I'm stressed about this because I deeply care about something else. It's almost like you're taking control of that situation. And then the last one is use stress to help you. So how do you do that? There are, a multitude of classes on the internet right now that you can learn and study, and I keep going back to people who are not getting the funds from unemployment, or whose sales are not as great, or who are out of work. There are things that you can maybe learn on the internet that to increase your skill set. Classes you can take. Maybe you need to look at your situation a little bit differently. If you were selling things this way, hey, you know what? Here's a new avenue. Like one of the things that I'm going to start doing is I'm going to have a party, like a shirt selling party, to sell shirts. Another way of using this situation, this time, to get myself out there, because I had big events planned and they're not happening. So for the next few days as we're going through this week, really start to pay attention to your stress and to those things that happen to you, and notice how you're feeling, and then ask yourself, or manage it, in these 3 steps. 1, acknowledge your stress, own it, and then ask yourself, how is this stress here to help me? What can I do with it? I hope that helps. Please post in our Facebook group. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about this, how it's making, what are your thoughts? I'm open to dialogue. And again, I am Vismaya Rubin, your favorite gratitude gangster. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.